using your why to say no. Welcome to the Podcast Why. I'm Brett Johnson, my podcast guy, your trusted friend in podcasting. This show is here to help you reconnect with the real why behind your podcast so you can keep showing up with clarity and confidence. In the last episode, we talked about choosing episode topics through your why, using your purpose and your promise as a filter for what belongs on the show. Today, we're going to look at the other side of that same coin, using your why to say no. If you've been podcasting for a while, you've probably noticed how easy it is to say yes to things. Yes, I'll have you on as a guest. Yeah, I'll cover that trending topic. Yeah, I'll join that collaboration or series. On the surface, all those can look like opportunities. But if you keep saying yes without checking them against your why, your show slowly drifts. You wake up 6 months later and you realize, this doesn't really feel like my podcast anymore. Your why is not just a compass for where to go. It's also a border, a gentle line that says, this is in bounds for my show and this is not. In this episode, I want to show you what it looks like when a podcaster starts using their why to decline good-sounding but misaligned ideas. Then I'll give you a simple way to test your own yeses and nos against your why so you can protect your energy and your listeners' trust. Let me share a composite story drawn from a lot of real conversations. Imagine a host, we'll call him Mark. Mark had a show with a strong core. His why was clear. He wanted to help people in a specific stage of their career navigate that season with more confidence and less burnout. His show promise reflected that, real talk, practical strategies, and honest stories for this particular group. For a while, he stayed focused. His episode spoke directly to that listener. His guests were chosen because they had something meaningful to offer that audience. His topics were anchored in the struggles and questions he heard from people in that stage of life. Then the opportunity started coming. A colleague launched a related product and asked, "Hey, can I come on your podcast to talk about this?" A bigger name in the broader industry reached out and said, "I'd love to be on your show," even though their expertise wasn't directly tied to Mark's listener. Other podcasters invited him to co-host panel episodes on more general topics. None of these were bad things. In fact, they all looked like wins. Because Mark is a generous, collaborative person, he said yes, and yes, and yes. Over the next few months, his feed started to fill up with episodes that were more about networking and cross-promotion than about his core listener. There were conversations that were interesting to him professionally, but didn't really speak to the day-to-day reality of his target audience. There were episodes that served his guest launches more than his listeners' needs. He wasn't being selfish or cynical, he was just trying to be open and helpful. But slowly his show started to feel like a bus with too many routes. His regular listeners didn't necessarily unsubscribe, but they began to cherry-pick episodes or skip more often. And Mark noticed that when he sat down to plan, he felt more tired and less clear. When we talked, I asked him a simple question. If you look at your last 10 episodes, how many are clearly serving the listener you originally started this show for? He paused and winced a little. Probably 4, maybe 5 was his answer. The rest were what I like to call why adjacent. They were near his mission, but not really driven by it. We went back to his why in his show promise. We put them in front of us like a North Star and asked, if this is what your show exists to do, what kinds of opportunities belong inside that? And what kinds are better as separate things? Maybe on social, maybe in other formats, but not as core episodes. That led to some honest reflection. He realized, 1, some guests' requests were more about giving that person a platform than serving his listener. Some topics were more about his own curiosity than his audience needs. Some collaborations were fun, but pulled his show into a more generic, less focused space. We didn't tell him to say no to everything. We simply gave him a filter, permission to say, if I say yes to this, will it move my listener toward the outcome my show promises them? Or will it mainly serve me, my guest, or my ego? Armed with that filter, Mark started to practice some new phrases, like, "Thanks for thinking of me. Right now, I'm keeping the show very focused on his listener situation, so this topic isn't a great fit." Or, I appreciate the invite. My podcast is really for a specific group, so I think I'll sit this one out, but I'm cheering you on. Or, that's a great idea, but it doesn't quite match the promise I've made my listeners. Maybe we can collaborate in another way. The result? His calendar got lighter, his episodes got sharper, and he felt more aligned. Saying no from his why didn't make his world smaller. It made his mission clearer. Now, let's bring this back down to your show. You probably already have a sense of the things you've said yes to that didn't fully fit. Rather than beat yourself up for those, let's turn them into information. Your why can become your boundary setter, that permission to say no, not just your inspiration. Here's a simple process you can use. First, write down your show promise or your 1 to 2 sentence why statement at the top of a page. This is your test line. Something like, this podcast helps who, do, feel, understand what, with how do you do it? Next, think about the kinds of opportunities and ideas that usually come your way. Guest pitches, topic suggestions, collaborations, series ideas. You can even write down a few recent ones that you've said yes or no to. For each opportunity, ask these 3 questions. 1, does this help my listener move toward the promise I've made them? If the honest answer is not really, that's a strong case for no. Number 2, would my listener be excited about this, or is this more about me or my guest? This helps you see whether you're serving your audience or your own image. And number 3, if I say yes to this, what am I saying no to? You only have so much time and creative energy. Every yes costs you something, even if it looks small. Now here's today's why question. If you used your why as a filter, what are 3 specific kinds of requests or ideas you're going to start saying no to, or not right now, so that you can say a deeper yes to your real mission? I'd encourage you to actually write these 3 down in a short list. Things my podcast doesn't do. It might include, we don't take guests whose main goal is to pitch a product that isn't relevant to our core listener. It could be, we don't cover news or trends that don't directly serve our promised outcome. Or it could be, we don't add new segments just because other shows are doing them. This isn't about being rigid. It's about being intentional. When you know what your show doesn't do, you free yourself from a lot of pressure and comparison. Your why becomes your anchor when every new idea feels urgent. And if you'd like help defining those boundaries, figuring out what belongs in your show and what doesn't, that's exactly the kind of strategic work I love doing with podcasters. You can book a clarity call with me. Just head over to My Podcast Guy online and look for the Book a Clarity Call link. We'll look at your why, your promise, the kinds of opportunities that keep coming your way, and build a simple decision filter you can lean on going forward. Thanks for listening to the podcast Why. I'm Brett Johnson, My Podcast Guy, and I'll talk to you in the next episode.